Hi, I'm David Duchovny, and this is Brad Davidson right here, who's going to be he's going to be asking me questions that I don't want to be asked, maybe. So we'll work our way through it. But say hi, Brad.
Hi.
We don't think he's wanted in any states. We don't think there are any warrants out for his arrest, and we think that's his real name, Brad Davidson. So here he is.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us here on Facebook. We're here to do David's live signing for his new book, Miss Subways, and you can go to misssubwaysbook.com. Did I get that right? Miss Subways book? Great.
You're supposed to be the pro.
Yeah, I know, but they said I can ask them questions and stuff.
Okay.
So. Go misssubwaysbook.com.
I'll help.
Okay, and you can order your signed copy, and David's going to be signing, but we're going to do a few things here. We're going to ask David a few questions to get started, and then we're going to mainly be taking a lot of fan questions. I think we might take a call or two, that could possibly happen, and then we're going to play a couple games or something. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
We should get started.
Yeah, but welcome everybody, because this is Facebook Live, so all around the world I see questions are coming in from New York, Ontario, Spain, Illinois.
Ontario, Spain.
Ontario, Spain. It's big there.
Yeah.
Big. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, the book officially comes out tomorrow. But once again,
Yeah.
misssubwaysbook.com.
Yeah.
You can get it there right now.
And we're here signing these books, and we were just talking about how, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I would like you to judge this book by its cover because I like it so much. You see, I'd wanted the subway map to kind of come through on, this is the original Miss Subways here, this woman on here, and I'd wanted the subway map to somehow come through her face as almost like veins in a face, without being gross, of course, but figured out a way to make this acetate so that when you kind of press it, you do see, yeah, there you go. And there's the book itself, the hardcover of the book. So when you get it, when you do receive this, it's very satisfying to me, like thematically, to see the actual subway tracks come out as the veins of this woman's face. And so anyway, that's the cover.
It's a very old library book, but not that library book smell yet, because they're brand new. But it has that feel, like when I used to do my book reports, I'd get,
Yeah, not much of a smell at all.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit before we get to the fan questions. Miss Subways is your third book that's come out now,
Yeah.
Following up to Bucky Fucking Dent and your first, Holy Cow,
Mm-hmm.
which are both completely different stories.
Yeah.
How did Miss Subways come to be? Is this something that's lived within you for a long time, or was it a new thought? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I grew up in New York, so I rode the subways. I grew up on 11th Street and 2nd Avenue, and my high school was on 77th and Broadway. If you live in Ontario, Spain, this might not make so much sense to you. But so I spent a lot of time on the subway as a kid. And there was this actual competition or beauty pageant when I was a kid where I don't know who voted, but these women would be contestants in the Miss Subways pageant. So it was always filed away in my mind, I guess, in that way. And then, books come together, they come together just many different strands. So that's one strand, was just riding the subway. And I had seen in graduate school, when I was at Yale, I had been taken to a play by a friend of mine that the undergraduates were putting on called The Only Jealousy of Emer, which I had not heard of, but it was by W.B. Yeats. And in this verse play, there was this story that is fundamental to Miss Subways, which is about Cuchulainn, the Irish king, and his wife Emer. And the name of the main character in my book, is Emer. And in that play, a fairy, or a demonic fairy, comes to Emer and basically gives her the wager of, your husband is off fighting these wars. We know that you want to spend an old age with him, and you're letting him go out and do all these things as a king. But my wager to you is he's going to die today, and you can save him, but if you save him, he will not know you. So he can live and not know you and love you, and you will not have that old age together, or he can die. So that just stayed with me forever. I wouldn't say that I loved it, but I felt it was a very kind of profound wager. And, 35 years later, or 20 years later, or whatever we are now, 20, that would be 85 when I saw that. So 33 years later, it all came together in a book.
And then writing, I know putting this book together, is this, and we've talked about it before, sometimes the blank page, you just kind of run away with it, and 3 days later, you've got a lot accomplished, and then sometimes it just, is more of a fight to get through. What was it like writing this one? Was it easier compared to Bucky Dent or Holy Cow, or is it something that you went back and forth for a while?
No, this was probably the hardest of the three, so there were some bumpy parts to this. The fact that it kind of takes place along three different parallel universes in a way, how to swing that, the relationship, how to make that realistic, how to make you want to root for these people to be together in a way. There was some stuff that had to be finessed and that were fundamental, questions to be answered. So it was a harder process for me to write this one. I don't think that means anything in the writing or whether or not it's as good as the other ones, but personally it was a tougher road.
And from a storytelling perspective, I'm not sure exactly how to ask, but are you excited, every time you put out a book, it's a different type of story that you're telling, so there's sort of a different anticipation, like, I'm really excited to share this piece of art or this story with somebody, like,
Yeah.
Is there a sense of excitement? You're like, I'm really excited to share this story now with people.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because, well, the idea to me is almost 30 years old, so it doesn't feel current to me, right? So it's been bouncing around in my head for a long time, but it's interesting for it to come out when it's coming out right now. It's interesting for me to be putting myself out there as a man writing in a woman's voice, writing a protagonist who's a woman. And it's most interesting to have finished this book a year ago, and now we find ourselves in a very different social context of a man trying to write as a woman's voice. So I'm interested to see how that's received.
Okay, I think we're going to get to some fan questions now.
That makes sense?
Yeah. So we're going to do, you're going to start signing, and I'm going to start looking through.
This is like chewing gum and walking at the same time?
All right, we're going to start local. Amy in Brooklyn, New York. The question I'm sure everybody has.
She could shout it and we could hear her.
Exactly. Who's the woman on the cover?
Oh. I'll be unable to answer the first question. She is a Miss Subway's winner. I want to say she was the first Miss Subway's, and I want to say her name is Mona Freeman, but I'm not sure.
Everybody's Googling right now.
Yeah. I may not, none of that may be true, but I say it in good faith. I believe it to be true.
Okay.
I didn't sign while I said that.
Here we go. Mariana from Montevideo. Is there a particular time in the history of New York City you find more appealing and or inspirational?
Well, probably the time of my childhood, the late 60s and the 70s. I don't know if I find it more appealing, but it's kind of in my soul. It's both nostalgic, but also I feel like I can write about it almost without any research. So it appeals to how lazy I am. That was supposed to be funny.
I was thrown off by one of the questions here. It's pretty funny. Have you ever considered writing a series?
Like a television series or a series of books?
Maybe a series of books.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think what I do is I write, if I'm lucky enough to have an idea to write a story or a book, I'll write that. If it's something that can be serialized or the idea demands that it would be a serial, I would pursue it through that form. But I don't think I would start from the outside in and go, oh, I'm going to think of a serial. I would think, oh, I've got an idea, I'm going to write it, and then if I got to the end of what I thought was a book and I thought more needed to happen, or there were, then I might pursue that.
That was questions from Heather in East Northport, New York. I want to make sure to give Heather credit for writing in. What is your favorite book to reread over again? Sorry, from Halyard in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
I think I read American Pastoral a few times now. There are many books that I like to reread. I think rereading is something that's not talked about very much because I don't know why, but I believe it's true that books demand to be reread different times of your life if they're good books. So it's a different book 5 years later from the book that you read 5 years ago because you're a different person. So I think it behooves many of us to reread books that we find important.
I always like rereading Catcher in the Rye. Classic.
There's
but,
one.
You know, I read it over and over. From Hannah and I don't want to mispronounce it, Tralee Kerry. I believe that's in Ireland.
Sounds like it to me.
The question, had you always had an interest in Irish mythology?
No, I haven't really. This was really, as I said earlier, this all came from exposure to this Yeats play, and then these specific characters were handed down, given to me in that way. My mother is Scottish, so I would have been, she would have been happier if I could have made them kind of Scottish folklore, but it didn't work out in this case.
From Dawn in Downers Grove, Illinois. No, wait. There we go. Sorry, wrong question. From Kara in Wilmington, Delaware. What line from a piece of literature, song, TV show, or movie do you wish you'd written? So like a famous line from a piece of work. Might have to get back to that.
I don't know. I don't.
Or maybe it's, you're like,
I don't know
I
if
wish
I-
I wrote that song,
Oh, there's tons of songs I wish I
Yeah.
wrote. Tons of songs I wish I wrote, but geez, I don't know. It's you stumped me. You stumped me.
Uh-oh.
Stumped. I'm gonna get back to signing.
All right. I'm going to be looking for questions here. From Karina in Auckland, where we just were, New Zealand. It was great, great trip. You have many creative sides to you, but what is it about writing that makes you want to continue doing so?
Well, most of the other stuff that I do, most of the stuff that I've done as a person in show business is, or even in music, is collaborative. It takes a lot of different people to put out a movie, television show, an album, even, and writing a book is collaborative in a sense, in that I do work with an editor, but it's really mostly just me sitting in a room trying to figure it out. And I've, after having spent so much of my life collaborating, I do love that. I do love being on a set with a lot of other people trying to make something the best that we can make together. There was also something, I think it was time for me to sit down and try to do something just on my own. So I like that. And the fact that I can do it anywhere and at any time. I don't need anybody else to say, okay, it's lit over here, you can write. I can just sit down and
book
write.
a studio or
Right.
something like that. From Bianca in Crystal Beach, Texas. David, can't wait to read your new book. I heard you're working on a film about your last book, Bucky Fucking Dent. Is that still happening? And when are you coming to Texas?
It's a
We're filming.
multifaceted question.
The movie is being filmed in Texas. You should just kill two birds.
Yeah, the Boston Red Sox Yankee
Yeah.
stuff, that'll play.
It's better. It's better played out in Texas.
Yeah. The question was,
About Bucky.
yeah, we hope to be filming Bucky in August. That looks good. That looks good. These things are always precarious, and they come together, they fall apart, they come together, they fall apart, but I have a good feeling about Bucky.
From Adina in Battleground, Washington. It's an interesting city, Battleground.
Isn't all Washington a battleground?
Yeah, I guess. Favorite place to sit, soak up the beauty of your surroundings, and contemplate life?
Oh, that's the question?
Yeah. Like, what's your favorite place to go to just
The
chill?
seashore. The seashore. I like being I like seeing the water.
Third book.
Am I going too fast, or am I doing well here? I could slow down. I'm going to.
He's a fast signer. She's a fast signer.
I've always
By the
been
way,
a
you know what
fast
else I
signer.
messed up? I'm supposed to hit the buttons once I ask the question, but I didn't. So now it's on. Okay.
You are so fired.
Angelina from Toronto, Ontario.
Ontario, as we say here in America.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh. I'm going to go with just the first one that comes to mind. It may not be my favorite, but Don't Look Now I always loved as a young man. Nicholas Roeg film starring Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There's just a good one here. Here we go. Melanie from Canton, Ohio. Thanks for writing in, Melanie. I'm assuming you've rode the subway a few times in your life. Anything strange ever happened down there? Have you ever rode the subway to Jamaica?
Yeah.
And then some thank yous and stuff.
Oh.
But so, anything ever strange you've witnessed or happened to you on the subway?
Yes, sure. Stuff that I really can't say in polite society.
Facebook Live.
Is that polite society? Highlights for me in the subway, finding a $10 bill once when I was a kid. Still remember
That's
it.
big.
That was big. But the story that's recounted in the book between the lovers was taken from something that happened to me when I was a kid, where my mother, as I mentioned earlier, is Scottish. She's from Scotland, and she's not that adept at the New York City subway system. And I, being a young boy, was very interested in dinosaurs. And dinosaurs is Museum of Natural History up on 86th and Central Park West, and I had to get there from 11th and 2nd. Now, whatever subway we took, we made a wrong connection, and we ended up in another borough, Queens, in Jamaica, Queens. So the doors opened, and me as a, I don't know, must have been 5 or 6 years old, I see Jamaica. And I turned to my mother and I said, "Oh my God, we really took the wrong train." And so he tells that story in the book, and in the dedication I dedicated to my mother, you know, who tried her damnedest to get me to the Museum of Natural History, and we usually failed. The hardest places to get to for us were Museum of Natural History and Yankee Stadium. They seemed almost impossible to get to by subway. And I'm sure they're very easy to get to, but we couldn't figure it out.
Did you ever wind up getting there?
Yankee Stadium?
The museum.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure I made it there with my mother, but I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
I'm sure we did. I loved it, and it's just, well, you know, now they got Night at the Museum. It's
Oh, right.
Memorialized it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Ben Stiller.
I'm more the prequel, which is the subway
To the
afternoon not getting to the Museum of Natural History.
Okay, Betsy from Springville, Utah. A lot of Utah people. I just graduated from the cinema program at my university and got to work on several sets, directing, producing, writing, gripping, and much more. Despite these experiences, I'm really nervous about my future. Any advice about a career in film?
Well, it seems to me that you've, I think the right way to do it is to try to learn as much about every aspect of filmmaking as you can. When I first was working, there were a lot of guys and women in the business who had done like every job on the set. And I think that's the best way to go about doing it. I think you can learn the most by just trying, you know, spend a day lighting, spend a day with the script supervisor, spend a day with the director, with the actors, with the stand-ins, with craft service. You know, there's no limit to what you can learn by doing every job on that set. But it is nerve-wracking, I'll give you that. It's a tough business.
On a similar note, Jerry from Las Vegas, Nevada writes in. Thanks, Jerry. What advice would you give to a struggling writer who is on the brink of being ready for publishing? I like the way that's worded. I'm on the brink of being ready for publishing. Not ready. What if a publisher comes? You're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what advice I can give to a writer.
We need people behind the camera that are your publishers are here. They can answer that.
Yeah. What advice do you
Any
give to
advice?
somebody on the brink? Just keep writing. Well, I mean, that's, you
Keep
know,
writing, keep submitting.
I think that's the best advice to writers is to, you know, just write every day if you can. It's not easy. It's not, sometimes not fun, but I think sometimes the best writing I've done has been on days that I didn't want to write. So, and, you know, on days when I want to write, I'm sure I've done some of the shittiest writing I've done. So you never know. You never know when you're going to hit your stride. It's very interesting. It's similar with acting. Like some days I haven't wanted to do it and the work's been great. It's funny that way. Life is funny that way.
True. Meredith from Wilmington, North Carolina writes, what's the oddest detail you had to research to make a character more realistic to the reader?
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
It's so good that it's going to take a while to answer. Shit. Well, for Bucky, I had to research those guys that sling peanuts, you know, and
Right.
exactly what they wore. I might get back to that
Back
one.
to that one.
Shit. It's a good question. You keep talking, and we'll get back to that one.
Okay, this is one we get all the time. I see on your social media. Any chance of you visiting South America for music, book, film, anything?
Sure. I'm sure there's a chance. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to.
We talked about South America potentially before you went to Australia.
Yeah.
And toured there.
Yeah.
So I think with touring music-wise, it's a little more difficult to move around, but
It
I
is.
know we want to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could have a, oh, sorry, now I realize I forget that person's name. Julia from Mays Landing, New Jersey. If you could have dinner with a person living or dead, who would they be? Preferably living.
They'd be a better,
Right,
better dinner.
better
Yes.
conversation piece.
He hasn't said a word.
Yeah.
Sir, you are boring. Well, my first thought is I would like, you know, if it's living or dead, I'd like to have dinner with my dad. He's dead, but I have to call him back for that one.
What about living then?
Living. I don't know.
It's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Dead people are way easier to invite places.
Exactly. Dawn from Downers Grove. Push these down. Oh, Green Bar.
Green Bar.
Oh, we have a phone call?
Oh.
Nice. Okay, we're going to take a phone call. This is exciting. Here we are. It's Maria from Sterling Heights, Michigan, on the phone.
Hi, Maria.
Hello.
Hi, this is David Duchovny.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you calling from?
Sterling Heights, Michigan.
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
What's your
Do
question?
you have a question for me?
Oh, sure. Last year there was a solar eclipse that was visible all across the United States.
Yes.
Did you get a chance to experience it?
I did. We were shooting the X-Files in Vancouver, and we were actually inside, but we were kind of looking out through the windows, and we were lucky enough to have the camera crew there. So, you know, you have all these filters that you can put over a lens, all these light filters. So I got to look at the eclipse through a light filter that was supposedly safe for my eyes. We'll see in the future whether it was actually safe for my eyes, but yeah, so I had a good view of it. Where were you?
That's good. We actually traveled to Nashville hoping to see it completely. However, we had clouds get in the way, so
What happened in the
it was
way?
a good experience.
What happened on the way?
A cloud got in the way. A cloud. It was a
Oh, a
cloud.
cloud. Oh, yeah. I imagine that could be bad luck, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was a good experience either way.
Well, you know, next time, you know, it'll happen in about 400 years, so you'll get it then.
Sure.
Anything else I can do for you?
No, that's it.
That's
Okay.
it? That's it? All right. Well,
Yeah.
it was nice talking to you. And,
Thank you.
all right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, that was cool. We're going to get back to some questions now. You know, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but for people that have just joined, I think it's worth saying again. The name is H-A-O. How?
My name?
No, that's their name. Am I pronouncing it right?
I don't know.
You're the name guy. H-A-O, How, from San Francisco, California. Were you involved in picking the cover image for the book?
Yes, I was. I said this off the top, yeah, that there was just something about this woman's face that I felt was just innocent and hopeful and strong. There was just something about the photograph that I really liked, and that she was a Miss Subways. She was the first, but I didn't know that when I picked it. I mean, it's nice that she is the first, and it makes sense that I would have picked the first, but I just kind of picked her. And then the design was to have somehow incorporate the veins of the subway like the veins of a human body. And so we did that. Yeah, so that was kind of the concept that I wanted going in. And then we kind of struggled with it because without the acetate, you know, without the overlay, she could look like, it looked strange with these lines on her face. So in this way, you can kind of, sometimes she has the lines or doesn't have them, and then you kind of press it and she does, and it's kind of a happy resolution for me anyway.
So you've just joined where David's book's Miss Subways is coming out tomorrow. If you'd like to order a copy, a signed copy, you can do that through MissSubwaysBook.com. Thanks everybody from all over the world and all these great questions coming in. Here's a really good question.
I'd like to have dinner with Michelle Wolf and tell her what a great job she did.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was great.
She's alive.
That was the correspondence.
Let's have dinner.
Fantastic. She's funny.
So funny.
Really funny. Gabriella from Hollywood, Florida. Hi, I'm a Spanish translator, and while I was reading Holy Cow, I kept wondering how all your magnificent puns and cultural references would be translated into Spanish.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to find a Spanish translation. Is there one? I'm sure Miss Subways also has a lot of puns and references. Will it be translated into Spanish?
I hope it's translated into Spanish. I believe that Holy Cow was translated into Spanish.
Holy cow, yes.
I think it was.
I don't know about Bucky.
I don't know about Bucky either. She was referencing Holy Cow, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a hard. It's a
It
hard.
was in Spanish, right?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. I'm remembering the cover.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a hurdle for a translator to translate idioms or references that are specific to a culture or a language. And sometimes they try to come up with a parallel, which is interesting. And they'll run it by me sometimes, and usually I'll go for that, you know, rather than try and force a particularly American idiom or incident in the book if it's not working anymore. I guess the most obvious one from Holy Cow would have been the fact that the turkey thinks if he gets to Turkey, he's going to be safe because the country's named after him, and Turkey's probably not Turkey in many other languages. Turkey's not Turkey in Turkey, probably. So that's kind of a linchpin of the whole book, one of the linchpins, and I'm not sure how that was handled in the different languages, but it's certainly one of the, not just one of the hurdles, but maybe one of the fascinating challenges of being a translator.
Here's one from Donna in, I wonder, Durant, Oklahoma. I wonder if did they name a city after Kevin Durant there? Or do you think that was
No
there?
doubt.
Yeah. So Donna from Durant, Oklahoma. A good question too. Since Miss Subways was referenced in Bucky Fucking Dent,
Yeah.
I was wondering if book number 4 is already in the works and referenced somehow.
What would it be called?
Well,
Because I mentioned other books in Bucky Dent.
right. But are you pulling like a Marvel thing, like leaving the egg at the end of the?
Well, there is a reference to the Sacre Coeur, the Sacred Heart, in this book, and I have a song about the Sacred Heart
true.
on the album,
True.
on Every Third Thought. So, I mean, I think what you're saying is I just have a limited amount of ideas and imagination, and I'm going to cannibalize myself as much as I can. But I think when I was writing that, honestly, it was probably just off the top of my head that I knew I had this story in my head when I was writing Bucky Dent. I didn't know that I was going to write it. I didn't have it written. I also reference, I think, a novel called Wherever There Are Two in Bucky Dent. These are the unfinished works of Ted in the book. And that was actually a novel that I wrote when I was like in my early 20s, like my first novel that's unpublished, you know, and sitting in a drawer and will remain there forever.
Forever?
Forever.
Wow.
So, although there's one other book I referenced that it doesn't exist in any shape or form, and that was Death by Now, which just struck me as being funny. It's like a thriller, like Death by Now. Like, what does it mean? I don't know. Maybe I'll write that one.
Here's a good question. Dawn from Downers Grove, Illinois.
Downers Grove.
Anyone from Downers Grove. She talks about, she wrote a lot, so I'm trying to sub here. She talks about having your family involved in narrating the audiobook for Miss Subway.
True.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I had done the audiobook for both Holy Cow and Bucky Fucking Dent, and I did the audiobook for this as well. I did it in LA, and it was about 3 weeks before publication, and I just woke up one morning and I thought, oh, I should have Taya read Emer, and that would be fun, and that would be cool. And then I could make sure she read the book, which would be
True.
Yeah. And then, and Taya said yes, and then as we were doing it, I thought, well, you know, my daughter West is acting now. I was like, you know, she's in SAG, let's put her to work. And then Taya said, well, if we're going to use West, we got to use Miller too. And I was like, oh yeah, we got to get my son a job. So we threw them all in there. And it's mostly Taya though, because Emer has the lion's share of the dialogue in the book. But I read through the whole book myself and did Emer's dialogue, and luckily I get to have Taya doing it in the audiobook, and I think people who get that audiobook. It's going to be interesting because I haven't heard many audiobooks that are kind of like a chorus of voices rather than just the writer. And when I read my books, I don't try to do the voices. I'm always annoyed by those kind of audiobooks. So I think this will be maybe a more exciting audiobook than the other two. I hope anyway.
Nice. Once again, if you want to order a signed copy of the book, go to MissSubwaysBook.com, and those are going to be shipping, I'm told, in a couple days. So, back to the questions here. I just had a good one that I wanted to ask, and it just jumped up a little bit. Here we go. Background, Peru, that wasn't it, that wasn't it. Oh, here, I'll push it. I need more. Let me push the books over. I just had a really good question. Why did I lose it? Oh, here's one. We'll get back to the other one. This is a good question, too. Jorge from Mission, Texas writes in, and you could also maybe add a twist to it. He's asking why you love New York so much. Maybe you could tell us what you love about it and what you don't love about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's that I love New York so much. I'd say that I just know it so well, and I think I referenced this earlier, is that my formative experiences happened in New York. I was born here, and I stayed here till I was 18, then I went away to college. So I just know it so well, and as ideas come to me, I think they probably tend to come at me set in New York somehow. That's just the way my brain is wired. I certainly have a love-hate relationship with it, and I think this is the first thing that I've written that takes place in present-day New York. So that's a step forward anyway.
Okay. We have Cortland.
Because The House of D I wrote, that was 1974, New York. Bucky Fucking Dent, 1978, New York. So at least I'm out of the 70s.
Right. True.
Progress.
Cortland from Jeffersonville, Indiana writes, what do you enjoy about working across various genres of expression? Acting, writing, singing. Do you feel like working on a project in one genre distracts you or helps you with another?
Well, like I said earlier, I think I'm lucky enough to have found great collaborators in other genres, certainly music, and obviously throughout my career as an actor, an actor has lines written for him and has a director and has a lighting crew, and it's a deeply collaborative art form. I don't know. Ideas, if I have ideas, they come to me. I mean, I guess I kind of think of an idea and it appears to me as a song, or it appears to me as a story, and it could appear to me as a story for a movie, which would be a screenplay, or it could appear to me as a story for a book if I didn't think it lent itself to visualization. It's just kind of a gut instinct, off ideas, what they are. Poem, song, novel, screenplay, like that. So it's just my own personal taste and gut in deciding what to do with whatever idea I get or come across.
Great question coming in from Nick from Athens, Georgia. How's your jump shot looking these days? You really don't play much anymore.
Nick, that hurts. Do I really have to answer that?
No.
Not good. You might not even call it.
How come you don't play as much ananymore?
You might call it a
You love
set
the
shot.
game.
It
You
might
love
be a
the
set
game.
shot at this point.
You love the game, though. How
might-
come you never shoot around? You need a hoop.
Because if you're ever decent at something, it really hurts when you're no longer
Oh,
decent.
really?
At it. Yeah.
So you're like, oh, you can't make those moves anymore?
Then I got to keep telling people how good I was, and then I become that guy.
Right. But what if you just had a hoop in your yard or something and you could just shoot around? Like,
It's not about shooting. The game's not about shooting, bro.
Right, true.
It's a team game.
Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. Barbara, returning back to Ontario, or Ontario, as I would say, from Elginburg, Ontario.
Yeah.
I just turned 40, April 24th. It's good to let us
That's
know.
my daughter's birthday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And feels like I should do something adventurous. What is something you've done that others should try at least once in their lifetime? You ever done anything like skydiving, that
No.
sort of stuff? You're not that guy.
No. I've been asked this question some in my life, and I think I've given the same answer, and I believe that it's true. As an actor, I always felt a lot of, not necessarily pressure, but energy or risk around what I was doing, and that so many people were going to see it. So it was like, it's almost like, being on a trapeze, I guess. So I felt like, on my downtime, I wanted to relax. I didn't want to get up on another trapeze. But maybe if your life is not exciting or risk-taking in that way, maybe one does want to take, one does want to jump out of a plane or bungee jump. I don't know, that was never my thing. I guess the idea of imminent death was not so exciting to me.
Yeah.
Or like putting my life in the hands of some dude I just met 5 minutes ago who tells me my harness is on correctly.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
but I say go for it if you want.
I mean, I guess it's just one interpretation of adventurous. You put out, we've worked together on your music.
Yeah.
That's in a way, adventure is a journey. That's something that you wanted to do to start something new that you hadn't done. So to this woman, I would almost say, adventure doesn't have to just be jumping out of a plane. It's really taking that leap to something that you never thought you would do, maybe.
I'd like to take a cooking class. How's that for ballsy?
Cooking show.
No. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Rachel Ray.
Coming for you, Rachel Ray.
Exactly.
Coming for you. It's called Sandwiches and Omelets. That's it.
It's called Toast with David.
Sandwiches, omelets, and a little salad.
Okay. How do you get, this is from Jordan in Sweeney, Texas. How do you get in the mindset to write a book like Miss Subway's? Is it spontaneous? Question mark.
Well, I think first comes the idea, and again, I think it's just kind of like my own taste, or it's almost like betting on a horse or or a player or a team, and you go, I go, I'm going to bet on that idea that's going to be a whole story. That's going to be a good story, because you don't have it full when you just have like the flash of an idea. But you have the flash and you go, okay, I'm going to bet on that one, and I'm going to bet on it by spending time with it. I'm going to sit my ass down and I'm going to start writing. And then if you're at that point, and then it's really, I can't be acting and I can't really be touring, I can't be recording. I think when I write, with music I can kind of do it like, I could sit down and maybe try to write a song in an afternoon. But with a book and with acting, you kind of got to be in it. You got to be in that head. And with a book, you really just have to have a chunk of time where you're going to be able to sit your ass down for multiple hours a day, day after day after day. And it's really like hunting down the story. You had this glimmer of it, and now you've got to hunt it down and bring it home.
Right. So, thanks again, everybody, for joining us so far. We're going to take a break from the fan questions and play something called 22 Questions in 2 Minutes. If you want to get a signed copy of the book, go to MissSubwaysBook.com, and you can get that now. And I also wanted to thank all the people behind the camera here that put this together. You guys are fantastic. They have the whole system, and everybody's telling us what to do. I think it's going good. I hope it is. I hope everybody's enjoying it. 22 questions, 2 minutes. Let me ask one question to the people behind the cameras. Does that mean like I have to go really fast? It's like a rapid, like, who are you? What do you do? Okay.
They're like, uh-huh.
Okay. All right. So you can't sign for this?
I can.
Oh, you can, but I mean,
me.
we're going rapid fire here. Okay, 22 questions in 2 minutes. 1, where were you born?
New York City.
Who would you want to play in a movie? Pass. What was your first job?
I was a meat market delivery boy.
What is your
on
greatest
a bicycle?
What is your greatest accomplishment?
Maybe writing these novels.
What is your biggest fear?
Public shaming.
Who makes you laugh the most?
My dear departed friend, Gary Shanley.
What is the one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times? It's empty.
Maple syrup.
What is your favorite adult beverage?
Tequila.
Who's the most interesting person you met recently?
My daughter. I didn't meet her recently, but she's interesting. She's changing all the time, so I feel like I meet her anew every time. Next question.
What is your middle name?
William.
What is your biggest
Got
pet
that one
peeve? Biggest pet peeve.
Loud noises.
What is your favorite hobby?
Knitting. I don't do it, but I like it. Other people do.
Guilty pleasure?
Television from my childhood, like 60s, 70s television.
Any hidden talents?
No.
Whoa.
Cooking.
What color is your toothbrush?
Black.
What is your worst habit?
Procrastination.
Favorite thing to cook? The cooking show.
Omelets.
What's the last album you bought or streamed?
Album? Whose last album I bought was by Beethoven.
What is the last gift you gave?
Shit. Oh, a painting. My daughter had a birthday. It was a painting that she wanted.
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause?
Yeah.
Animal rights, the environment. We can argue over all the things we argue about, but we're running out of time on this planet.
Name anything on your bucket list.
The Great Coral Reef.
Where do you want to go that you've never
I'd like to
been?
own it. I'd like to have it in my apartment.
Where do you want to go that you've never been?
Well, I'm in Africa.
That's it. We got him. I mean, how many? That must have been more than 2 minutes, right?
What did I pass on?
Oh, we passed on. Who would you want to play in a movie?
Who would you want to play you?
Who would you want to play you in a movie? Thank you. That's a better question.
You think? I don't know. Who would I want to play me in a movie?
I never thought about that.
No, neither do I.
The David Duchovny story.
Get me a young David Duchovny.
Yeah. What time period is it? Is it like,
Pronto.
Is it the? That's a big difference. Or maybe like the Curious Case of David Duchovny going backwards. Something like that.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
So I didn't answer either of those iterations of that question. That's good. It was a tough question.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, hey,
All right.
we got it. Should we get that back to a few more fan questions here? Okay. Once again, thanks for everybody joining us. Book officially out tomorrow. You can get yours now at misssubwaysbook.com. Signed copies. And I'm being told a lot of people are purchasing and a lot of great questions coming in. So thank you everybody for taking time out of your middle of your day or wherever you are to join us. Let's see. When you do your writing, is it particularly in one spot? This comes from Justine in Wellingborough.
Sam Rockwell. I like Sam so much. He can play me.
Sam Rockwell?
I love Sam.
Nice.
Yeah.
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 He was great in...
He's just great. Anyway,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. What was the movie that he just did, though? The Three Billboards?
Three Billboards.
Yeah, it was great. Fantastic. Now, I lost you, Justine. Here we go. Justine from Wellingborough, Nordhans. Northants. It must be like geographically challenged. I don't want to come across that way, but I've not heard of that.
Stop worrying about yourself.
Sorry. When you were writing, do you need a quiet space, background noise? What's the ideal setting?
I like a view is nice. Quiet could be good, but sometimes I can work alone in public, like at a Starbucks, although not at a Starbucks, but like at a restaurant, or sometimes I like to have human life going on around while I'm working, and sometimes I just like to be alone in the room and doing it.
Jesse from Chula Vista, California. How do you deal with writer's block? Have you ever had
I
it?
tend to not write. That's how I do
Just
it.
do something else?
I haven't had, I have idea block. Like if I don't have an idea, I won't write. I've never really sat down when I didn't have something to write and tried to write. That might be something that I could do. But when I'm writing something, I generally don't have writer's block with that.
Here's Karen from Fayetteville, New York. Is there any question you've never been asked that you'd like to answer? No.
That was the one. And the answer is no.
What discoveries from your life should others appreciate as we work on returning civility to America?
Ooh.
William from East Windsor, New Jersey.
Well, William, I like your question. I think I know where you're coming from. We do have to respect one another. I feel like there are certain people in public life right now who have no shame, and unfortunately, I feel like we're trying to shame them, and it's not working because they have no shame. So that gets to the question of civility, which I can't answer, but I think it's a good question, and I think it's a good thing to ponder.
Holly from Thousand Oaks, California. Your novels are all very different from one another, spanning genres and taking on the perspectives of animals, men, and women. Despite their differences, would you say that there are any common threads that they all share?
I would say that I think they're all humorous in some way. I think that would be the common thread. I think. I don't know.
I mean, they're so different.
I wouldn't know how. Yeah, I mean, in terms of subject matter, but I would think you'd get a good laugh out of all three of them at some point. Not that that's the primary function, but I think they're kind of funny.
Yeah. I'll throw in a question that I had. When you write maybe Miss Subways or Holy Cow or Bucky Dent, how do you know you have that sense where you're done? You're done editing, you're done going back. I want to change this part. Like, do you have a real feeling of you're like, you know what, this is done? Or do you just say this is where it is at this time, and then after you've gone back, oh, maybe I could have done this? Like,
well, Miss Subways was a case where I dropped it a couple times and then came back and eventually finished it off. That's really where the collaboration with an editor comes in, where an editor has an idea of when you're done. I think better than an author sometimes because, they always say about a film, you never finish it, they just take it out of your hands at some point. You could constantly edit. I could constantly tinker. I mean, if I were to sit down and read this, I would mark it up, and I'd want to change some stuff. So at some point, they have to take it away from you. So I don't know if you're ever done.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing.
Sean from Dublin writes in, do you have a dream role, or is there a role you wish you had taken? I'll probably fill it.
I don't know that I have a dream role, nor do I know if there are roles that I wish I'd taken. I mean, there were roles that I wish I'd gotten more than that. Like, I remember reading For White Men Can't Jump. I wish I'd gotten that.
The jump shot was off.
No, the play. You had to audition first with your basketball skills before they even let
Wow.
you read. So yes, no, I passed that part of the
Nice.
audition. I passed the basketball and failed the acting. But I wish I'd gotten that one.
Let's see here. Lindsay from Thornton, Colorado. With all the fictional technology in the X-Files, do you still get surprised with real tech advancements? What are you most excited for in future tech?
You mean fictional technology like from outer space, I think you're saying, because we don't really have any technology as humans or as FBI agents that's not available to people, right now.
Yeah.
It's not like I see some other goofy shows and they've got this crazy tech, and it's like that's not real. So I think the tech that's crazy in our show is like alien technology that's been stolen in some way. Am I surprised by that? Yeah, I'm not sure I even understand what that is, but I'm like a bad technology person. I'm not good at it and scared of it, and I worry about it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have a phone. I have a cell phone. Yeah,
Flip phone or the iPhone?
none of your business.
Did you see Avengers, by the way, the new one?
I did not.
The Iron Man, the new Iron Man
already saw it?
technology. The Iron Man technology is pretty sweet. We're just talking about the technology.
Enjoy.
I guess I'll plug the movie.
Yeah, they need it. I hear they're not really doing business.
They're not. They're not.
It's not like books.
It had a weak opening.
Just fly off the shelves.
250 million over the weekend.
Yeah, no. Go see Avengers.
Yeah. So keep sending in the questions. We're about to wrap in a minute or two here, but we're going to try to get at least 2 more questions in. Something we touched on a little bit earlier. Marta from Vero Beach, Florida. What's easier, writing songs or writing novels, and how do they differ?
Well, I don't know if one's easier than the other. Novels certainly take a much longer time. And for me, songwriting has become much more collaborative. So that's easier for me to kind of come up with a germ of an idea for a song, or a couple verses or a verse and a chorus, and then to kind of throw it at the band and say, let's take this home. I wouldn't say one is easier than the other. They just come from different parts of the brain, I think. But certainly, writing a book is a big undertaking that takes months and months, if not years, to fully execute.
Okay, we're gonna do 2 more questions. Once again,
I think if you're writing a song for a year, you probably should move on. Like, that song's not working.
I wonder if there's that would be interesting to see like what pieces of work that were really big took a long delay. Like somebody had a huge hit song.
You
but it
always
took
hear
3
about
years.
songs that took, I wrote that in 10
Right.
minutes. And I feel like music is like that. Like, you just get that inspiration and you get those lyrics, and it's best to just leave it at that first impulse and not overthink it and not rewrite it.
And sometimes writing in scripts can be a long time, because you always hear somebody, I wrote this script 50 years ago, and, things like that. So, David from Chelmsford, Massachusetts writes in, I like how Miss Subways delves into the fantasy world. Is that something you want to continue with? And what other fantasy writers do you like?
The fantasy aspect to this book is really just inspired by the subject matter. I was just led to it by the story that I had in my head. So it's not really, and I've said this many times, like with the X-Files when I talk about it, it's not really where my head doesn't like go to science fiction or to fantasy. That's not where I go naturally. So it's certainly not something that I envision I'm going to start writing a series of fantasy books. I'm not judging them in any way. It's just not my natural inclination. So I'd be surprised if I did, but I wouldn't rule it out. Like I might have an idea. I might sit down and have an idea that demands that I, delve into fantasy in some way. I mean, but like I say, it's usually not my first impulse.
We'll take one more question here. Christiane from Brascat, Belgium, which I apologize if I mispronounced. What do you do writing in your private time? Obviously unpublished work. What's your favorite type of writing to do just for pleasure, if you do so?
The concept of writing for pleasure is foreign to me. I don't know that I do that. I don't journal.
Poetry.
Yeah, but I always think like I'd like to publish this poem someday.
Right.
And if I write a lyric, I want to write a song, and I want to record that song. So, I don't know. I mean, I used to write letters. I guess that's a form of pleasure writing, but long emails. I don't know.
No one writes letters anymore.
No. That's a really long text, but it was fun to write. It really was.
I really like text writing on my free time.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like it is a pleasure. It's a certain kind of pleasure to write fiction. It's not like pleasurable in the sense of like a good meal or something, but it's a deep kind of a pleasure to have done it.
Great. Well, thanks for taking an hour to do this. Congratulations on Miss Subway's coming out. You can order the book on misssubwaysbook.com. Once again, misssubwaysbook.com for an autographed copy. Tune in tonight. We're gonna do. You'll be on the Colbert Show, which is great. And then tomorrow, the big book release party at Barnes & Noble in New York City, Union Square. Mm-hmm. I saw a big thing in Herald Square yesterday with your. Yeah. I'm walking by and I'm like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. And thanks, obviously, everybody behind the camera. You guys putting this together.
Thank you.
This was great. So, thank you, everybody.